Testing, testing. How does it look? What do I need to do with my hands and my feet and my hands and my feet and my hands and my feet?
My Italian therapy is the place you want to be. My Italian therapy with Gina Fiore.
Hi everybody, I'm Gina with My Italian Therapy. Thanks for being here. We're going to do a little recap. Back in New York State, we spent 3 months in Europe, and I realized that I was really behind on those episodes. It's almost impossible to share the daily content with you guys. Twice a week, it gets backlogged, and the same thing happened to me last year. So if I'm not staying there, I end up coming back, and then for a month or two, I'm still sharing content from Italy. So I apologize for that. I know I'm really behind. I love you guys are here. I wanted to discuss a few things, the questions that came up throughout the episodes as they were kind of playing out week after week. And one very important thing I wanted to let you guys know was about the seatbelt. I always wear a seatbelt. I know this is a silly thing to be bringing up, but because I've had so much surgery on my left side in the last 29 years, I've had 11 surgeries, to put a seatbelt across my chest is very painful to me because of the nerve damage. So what I do is I hook the seatbelt and then I put it under my arm, and it doesn't look like I'm wearing a seatbelt, but I'm always wearing a seatbelt. And half the time I do have it on my chest if I'm on the autostrada, but those little roads where I'm going like 35 miles an hour, I don't put it across my chest. It's too bouncy and it's too constricting. So I wanted to let you know about that. Yeah, I wrote down several things. Obviously, the property, I did get the property in Torino de Sangro, and thank you guys for hanging in there. I didn't share all the properties that I went to. There were 3 that I canceled because they were in Campo Marina outside of Termoli. They were too far away, and they just didn't suit me because I did go check out the areas, and I just knew that it was too far from the sea and too far from Termoli. And then I've been looking at places online on Idealista and Casa IT and every real estate agency that I could find for the last year since I left Italy. And then also I looked at several properties last year. I did somewhat share them, but I don't think so because it was like the last few days when I was getting ready to leave, and I didn't know that I was going to feel that strongly about buying a property. I missed a really awesome property in San Vito because I didn't know the market. And I didn't realize that what I was looking at was a really super good deal, and it was gone. The realtor had told me there were 13 people that were looking at it, and I thought, yeah, right. So I lowballed that. I know you guys say 30%. You should be able to discount the offer by 30%, but that's not true everywhere. It may be true in a small mountain village. These properties do not sit very long on the sea if they're priced right. I ended up offering a lower offer to Fausto, and he rejected it. And that's what all the back and forth. That's why it took so long, because I actually had to physically go into the office that day in Lanciano and do a written offer. And I offered him full price because I had no choice. He wouldn't take anything less. And I'm sure he had offers that were less. And then I guess people just decided they didn't want to pay. But I thought that was a really good price for the location, the apartment, amenities. You know, that apartment has 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, 2 patios. It has a cantina downstairs for storage, which I didn't film. So I'm pleased with my choice, even if I have to put in mini splits for heat and air to have an alternative. But that gas heat is very good, just in case the power goes out for a storm, or for cooking. The gas stove for cooking is good when the power goes out. I don't like cooking on electric stoves anyway, but it was a really good, it took me a long time to get there, but it was a really good property for me, and the price was excellent. And it took me a long time bouncing around to figure out what it was I needed. And that leads me to the next thing I want to discuss, which is how you guys foresee the future and have these expectations of foreseeing the future. So let's see what we can, if we could talk about that. Foreseeing the future. Is that possible? No, not really. We kind of go by our present health, our present circumstances, and our foreseeable future, which we know that as we get older, there's obviously the possibility that we're going to run into lots of things. I've had cancer for 29 years, but I don't live like I have cancer because that wouldn't be living, would it? Well, I realized that I am on the third floor, second floor, second story in Italy, because the ground floor is not considered the first floor. I understand there are steps, and they're pretty wide steps. As far as the steps go, in most places, even if they have an elevator, you can't put your furniture in those elevators. They're too small. So when you're thinking, how is she going to get stuff up the stairs? And since the beginning of time, in cities all over the world, they carry stuff up the steps or pull it through the window. There are ways around steps. And I cannot foresee that I'm going to have a knee replacement surgery, or that I'm not going to be able to walk up steps, that I'm going to be infirm. If that happens, I'm obviously not going to be able to fly, and I'm not going to be able to go to Italy, and I'm not going to be able to walk on a rocky beach, and I'm not going to be able to ride a bike or go hiking. So I don't know when that is going to transpire. So I have to live my life like this. These are somewhat investment properties to give me euro income while I'm in Italy. There's a lot we're going to cover today because I am going to speak about France as well, because the things that have made my decision were not just steps, location, access to hospitals, access to public transportation, knowing I won't be able to own a car in Italy. Those things are important when buying a property, but also Italy has no inheritance taxes. So, and I can work in Italy not being a resident, even though I can't have a car, but I think I have that part figured out. France, on the other hand, they have huge inheritance taxes, and when we apply for residency, we have to say we're not going to work in France. So that was not an option to buy properties and rent them. Plus, I wanted to be in Italy, so I will be in Italy as long as France allows me, and when France allows me. I have to stay within that 3 month, go back to France for 3 months, come back for 3 months. And then also I want to rent out my apartment possibly for 4 months in the summertime. So that means I have to shorten my 3 months to like 2.5 months. So I get like 2.5 months. I go back to France for 3. I come back for 2.5 months. I rent for the summer for 4 months. That's the plan. And yes, I do still have my little San Martino sulla Maracina apartment. I'm going to be going back in October, and I'm going to move all of the stuff that's in that apartment into the San Martino apartment, because we're going to be doing a renovation April 1st. So everything will be shut off. I decided to restore the doors and windows myself, aside from the pieces that need to be cut and fit. And I'm going to put really good shutters that fold, and then there would be like 2 shutters that fold that are aluminum, where the shutters open and close, and they close really well. That will protect the inside of my house, and then also give me airflow. And then I will also put in fly screens, so you can have the shutters closed even when the weather's bad, have fly screens for no flies, and have those beautiful historic windows and doors, because I was having a hard time thinking about taking them away. And the more I watch of my filming, the more I don't want to replace them and put aluminum. I just don't. So I watch a lot of decorating shows on Paris and New York, and they always have the old windows and doors and shutters. You can't replace that. So I see that they have put sealed shutters on the outside. That's going to be the solution. So that's what I've come up with. So April 1st, we will start the renovation. And then after that renovation is done, I'm going to rent it out. So it's not going to be my primary residence. It's not going to have marble bathroom and kitchen counters. It's going to be an IKEA kitchen, which are lovely, washer dryer, and also the bathroom is going to be from the local people. But Giovanni's going to head the construction team with the plumbers and electricians, and we're going to put mini splits in there for heat and air, and it's going to be fabulous. So we're going to leave the bumpy walls. We're just going to fill the holes and things, and we're going to update the electric and plumbing, and it's going to be fab. So I'm going to participate in that. So apparently I'm probably going to have a car. I'm going to have to rent a car next year while I'm there somehow. But the car is the next thing I want to talk about. I know you guys go, why doesn't Italy allow you to have a car if you're not a resident? Well, it's not just Italy. It's pretty much anywhere. Unless you're a resident, you can't really own a car anywhere. That's just a fact. So basically, we rent them in increments, and it's quite expensive. That's why I went through all the trouble of bringing that car all the way from Portugal. And like, I don't know if all of you who are watching this saw that there was no power steering fluid in the car. I thought it was just because it was old. So I drove that car without power steering all the way from Portugal through Spain on the ferry all the way to Abruzzo. But that's okay. And then I found a fabulous mechanic who actually has my car as we speak, because he let me leave it there, and we may be able to come up with a solution for me to keep the car. If not, I may have another solution, and we're going to talk about that in future episodes because I have to do a little investigation. There is a place that you can buy a car in a particular country, and there's a company that basically takes the liability, and you don't have to be a resident of any country. So that we will investigate, and I'll let you know further, because that is going to be something that will change people's lives if it actually works and it's not incredibly expensive. So I brought that Portugal car because it was just sitting in Portugal and we couldn't sell it. And it became invaluable to me because it costs 2,000-3,000 euro each increment that we rent cars each year. That's 5,000-6,000 euro a year just to rent a car. So I will go back and I will use my car again, and I have to sell it in December. But it saved me that much money. It saved me 2 car rentals last year or this year. So it paid for itself. And then I will go ahead and sell it. So then I'll get some of my money back. And then I haven't lost anything. And that is the honest truth. It's not easy when you've got multiple properties and you don't have a car, and it's not easy to just jump in the car and drive to the flea markets or go to IKEA or all that. But it's possible. It's doable. And the location of where everything is from that Torino de Sangro apartment, you've got the Torino de Sangro apartment, and 10 minutes on not even, on the bike trail, you've got the market. And my bus stop is right outside my door, just a little bit down the street. If it's pouring rain or the weather's bad, I could take the bus and go to the train station, which is less than a half a mile away. Now that sounds really far to those of you who can jump in a car and haven't had to navigate. But I've lived in Alaska, and I had to drive 35 minutes to go to a lot of the stores. Drive. And there was no public transportation. Well, 10 minutes to a market on a bicycle is not a problem. When you're talking about if you lived in a city, sometimes you have to take a bus to some of the stores or a bus to work. Sometimes you have to take the subway or the tram because where you're going is not right there outside your door. It never is. Maybe your little market might be down the street, but that's not going to be a gigantic supermarket, chances are. That's just going to be your local market. So if you think about it, and I've lived in Rome, and I didn't have a big market near me. I didn't have a market like Conad, like I went to that one time. Oh my gosh, the Conad store. Blow your mind. I had to go to individual little markets because I didn't have a car and I couldn't drive to the big markets. And so I went to, like I was telling you when I was on the bicycle, the cheese guy and the wine guy and the fruit guy, and the market had some stuff, but then you had to go to another store, and then you had to go to if you wanted a coffee in a cornetto, I can't even say English words anymore. You had to go to the bar to get your, so that's what it's like in Europe. And that's what it's like in any city you live at. You find your neighborhood places, but then if you want to go to an IKEA, or if you want to go to a Costco, or if you want, you have to drive. They're not always like where you are. So this, to me, my priority was number one, I wanted to be able to walk to the beach. Number two, I wanted to be able to see the water. Number three, I wanted a balcony. I have two. Um, the next thing was storage for the bike, which I have, parking for a car, which I have. It's on a dead end street. I don't have traffic going by me. And yes, SS16 is down below, but that's not 24/7. That's like during the day. And, we're like busy during the day. We're not sitting. And in the wintertime, sometimes we don't have our windows and doors open. And if I'm going to paint, I could paint through the window or whatever. So all of those things, pretty updated electric and plumbing and 2 bedrooms. And I wanted a gas stove to cook on. An elevator would have been nice, but that would have just been for me, not for getting my furniture and stuff up and down the steps. It is furnished, that apartment. He's leaving everything but the refrigerator and the beds, which is fine because I would have got new beds anyway. So, the refrigerator, he wanted me to buy it, and I didn't want it. I'm going to bring the refrigerator from San Martino temporarily, or I'm going to just have them deliver, if I could get it done quickly, a refrigerator that fits in that cabinet. When you're looking across from the stove oven, if you look across, there's a cabinet, tall cabinet, that basically you put a refrigerator inside of there and you attach the doors. And when you open the doors, you open the refrigerator and the freezer. So I'm going to put one inside that cabinet, so this big gray monstrosity thing is not sitting in my way. It'll make more room. I will eventually do some renovation in that apartment, but not for a while. I'm going to paint those cabinets, take some doors off, and kind of just rearrange things a bit. So this is a really good fit for me. And public transportation, it's so easy. And if it's like a horrible, horrible day, I don't have to go out. While I have the car, I'm going to stock up on staples. Things like, that you use all the time, like pasta and tuna and ketchup and I don't know, anything in jars and boxes and things that I can keep for 6 months or a year. That little storage in between the bedroom and the bathroom, I'm going to put my closet in there and storage like a pantry. Because if I do rent out this apartment, I want to have my clothes in there all the time. And I would switch out a twin bed. And initially, I'm not going to buy any more beds until I know for sure I'm going to rent that place out for the summer. Because I have a lot of work I want to do. I want to paint, and I don't have a lot of time that I get to stay. And I'm going to be dealing with both properties. So I might not rent it out the first year in the summer. I might just have friends come visit or something if they want to, or something like that. So, there's a lot to do. It ticked every single box. I don't care about the junk in the neighbor's backyard. That's like the furthest thing from my mind, because there's so many ways of not seeing that. And then somebody suggested, which I absolutely love, they suggested we were discussing the junk in the backyard when my camera got full, so I had to delete some things to be able to carry on. I don't really care about the junk in the backyard. That is the only negative thing in this apartment. And that might not be forever, or that there's so many ways to rectify that situation, with the privacy screen or whatever. Because the back of the roof goes down like this, so you don't get a lot of sun anyway. So it wouldn't be like if I screened it in that there would be any sun and put privacy or whatever. But it's so funny. Somebody suggested that I go make friends with the neighbors and ask them to help clean up. I love that. You guys, I want to thank you for being here through all of this and all your suggestions and your ideas and the things you shared about your own experiences as I go through my day. and get frustrated or try this or that or go here and there, and you tell me about how you also had to deal with that. Some of you are in Italy, some of you are in the States, some of you are in other countries in Africa, Australia, the Netherlands. You guys are all over the world. Ireland, you're everywhere. It's amazing. And your encouraging words and your stories are so wonderful to me. I find that since I've started this YouTube channel, that I am talking to you and you are with me on this journey because I'm doing it with you in mind. Otherwise, why would I be sharing this, right? I'd just be going along in my day, trying to figure out things on my own. And sometimes the suggestions are really awesome, and sometimes they're just crazy, the things you guys come up with. It's hard to explain everything, and it's hard to cover everything and know what it is you're seeing. It's like 20,000 pairs of eyes, and I appreciate that. Oh, and that leads me to suggest that please, if you're not subscribed, if you would do that, I would be grateful. The likes, the subscriptions, and it's free to subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you know somebody that might be interested in this channel, I know it's inconsistent and it's up and down, and we're back in New York, and then we're in Italy, and then we're in Portugal, then we're in Spain. We're going to be going to England. In October, when we come back, we're going to be going to England and taking a painting class. We're going to do a workshop with Matthew Rice, and I'm going to interview him. I mean, we have so much stuff going on. So by the time that you guys have seen this, it's probably like August or something, or September. And I'm going to be going back to Italy soon. So we've really drug this out because there was so much to share. It just went on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So thanks for being patient, and me not being in real time. It was just not possible. But I want to talk about, and thank you for subscribing if you haven't, because I'm trying to grow the channel. And in order to do that, people who subscribe for free, it makes a difference. It helps me grow my channel. I really appreciate it. Your comments, I love, and the likes and all those things are helpful as well to help with the algorithm of the channel, the subscriptions and the algorithm. And then also I have Buy Me a Coffee. The money that does come in from the YouTube channel, I have in a separate account, and I put it back into the YouTube channel with trips and things that I do that to share with you. And then eventually it'll be helping other people, and we'll talk about that at another time. But I wanted to talk about all the serendipitous things that happened when I decided on that Torino di Sangro apartment. Not the Termoli one, not the San Vito one, not the Campo Marino one. But as soon as I decided on that apartment, things started happening, which were really weird. Like I ran into those guys in San Martino that were working to improve the trail, the Camino that goes from Puglia, not Puglia. It goes from La Aguila all the way to Ortona. It's in Abruzzo. So there's a Camino that goes through San Martino, and those guys just happened to be there when I was having coffee that day. And they were telling me how they were improving it for, to help disabled people be able to work on the trail. That's the land trail. And then he talked about how they hooked it up to the coastal trail, where I bought my property on that 70-kilometer coastal trail. But they're basically eventually going to connect that coastal trail on the entire coastline of Italy, because each city has their own increment of the trail. It just doesn't connect everywhere. And then if you remember when I stopped at that beautiful house to say, this is gorgeous. I wonder who's doing the construction. Let me pop in there. Well, the owner's son was there who was overseeing the project, and he has a construction company, and he was working on the trail down the way to connect the coastal trail to the next beach. So that was amazing. And he showed me on his phone, showed all you on his phone, how he was, this is what we're working on. He has big equipment. He's working on coastal trails. So that was amazing. And I got all the carpenters' numbers because they work out of Lanciano, except for the architect, which is a Milano. And then also I had just read an article about the money that they're putting into restoring the old abandoned train stations, the railroad buildings. And I was thinking, like, I know those railroad buildings are dilapidated everywhere that I've noticed because they were abandoned when they moved the train. So all the coastal trail is on the tracks, the old railroad tracks. So there's those humongous buildings that have gone into disrepair. There's millions of euros set aside to restore those buildings, and Torino di Sangro is one of them. And as you also saw, I stumbled upon that preserve right behind the apartment. So not only do I have the coastal trail, I have a reserve behind me. I don't even know how far those trails go. I didn't have time to explore them all. There is like a compacted paved stone paveway that goes on the trail. I mean, you could ride your bicycle there. You could push a disabled person there. A trike could ride in there. So to me, those are serendipitous things, and it started with that market. Also, nobody knew that that was a market. I asked everybody. There's no markets in Fossa Cesia. There's no markets. I knew there was no markets in San Torino di Sangro because there's nothing in Torino di Sangro but 2 restaurants. I just absolutely loved it. And then when I ran into Gary and Sophie, who were camping at that campground right below my apartment, he was talking on the phone English, and I'm like, oh, somebody who's speaking English, kind of like what Sophie said, where we were, or even where they were driving through France. Very few people speak English unless you run into an expat or an expat community, which is rare. So there were so many things, and there are more. The stones that I love and the colors that I love and the beach I love is the Torino di Sangro beach. I keep going back there because the other ones are not the same. And so for me, it's the perfect fit. I couldn't have found a more perfect property. Perfect would be getting my Italian residency and having a car and it being a home on the sea that I would actually be at like all the time. But that ain't never going to happen. And I'll tell you why, because you all want to know why I'm not getting Italian residency. I want to explain that too next. Now, this is a complicated one because I'm not a residency expert and I'm not an attorney, but I have consulted with many in all the different countries that I've looked at, you know, Portugal, France, and Italy mostly, because I use Nick Meta with Studio Legale Meta. They're out of Bari and PA in the States, and they in Nick and his staff, they have English speaking people and accountants and all that. So any questions I had over the last couple years, I've referred to them for confirmation. I never go on Facebook and ask a legal question, never, because people don't know, and you're going to get wrong answers. So as far as the 7% tax area, yes, I am in a 7% tax area. I don't mind paying taxes. I don't. And I don't mind having my health insurance, and I don't mind paying for my health insurance every year. But, you know, you only have so much income, and I am not an Italian resident, so I didn't incrementally get used to that tax structure. I'm jumping into it. So please don't shoot the messenger here. It's not that I don't want to pay tax. I just can only afford to pay so much tax because I only have so much money to live off of, right? The next thing is, as far as driver's licenses, there is no reciprocity. In Italy, you have to speak Italian. You have to understand Italian enough to go in and get your driver's exam. It is very hard. You can only miss 3. You have to be able to speak and understand the language in order to do this. And I don't see myself doing that within a year. Then you would have to give up your American driver's license in a year. And if you don't have your Italian driver's license, you can't be insured. So then you'd have a car that isn't insured, you're not licensed, you can't drive it. You know, that's the second thing. So the taxes, the 7% tax, and the driver's license. Those are 3 really huge things. And so, and the fourth thing for me is I'm not going to buy a house and stay there and garden and live there 365 days a year. I know myself. I'm 63. I want to travel. I want to be someplace else. I still want to do 3 months, go somewhere else, go to Morocco, go to Albania, go to Romania. I did look at Romania for residency, but it's too cold in the wintertime. Because the next thing is very important is retirement. And we talked about stairs and not anticipating that, but I am anticipating that. I'm anticipating that in the future at whatever point that might be. So when I get my residency, it will be in France and it will be in Montpellier. The reason, because it's a large city, public transportation, hospitals, flat, easy to get around. And if for some reason I can't walk up and down steps, I can't ride a bicycle to the market, and I can't walk on a rocky beach, I will be in France. That way, I have everything I need for my later years for the knee replacement. That's like, what are you going to do if you have to have a knee replacement? I don't know, because I don't have problems with my knees right now. So, all those things, hips, age, illness, not being able to get around, being slower, not wanting to ride a bike to the market. So that is what I chose. And that was after I went through maybe Albania, maybe Romania. Albania is too hot. Romania is too cold. Too hot in summer, too cold in winter. France is kind of like, and in France, oh, another thing about Italy. I can buy property in Italy. I can own property. I can work. I can rent out my property. And Italy does not have an inheritance tax. So when something happens to me, which it will, my son will inherit those properties without inheritance tax. Now we go over to France. Now, France has a very heavy inheritance tax, maybe up to 50%. He would be strapped with that if I bought French property. Also, and there might be a way around it, I don't know. But here's the other thing. I can't work in France if I'm doing the retirement visa. The retirement visa has a particular qualifying income for passive income. That is why we stay in certain, types of residency, because I can't qualify for a digital nomad or a working visa because I'm not going to work in France. Property's too expensive by the sea, and their properties are so tiny. If you're not buying a house in the village, you got this teeny 36-meter square apartment. Believe me, I've looked for years. It just wasn't a fit for me. So Italy worked for me for properties, and that's why I bought what I did and when I did, because it gives me the opportunity to get some euro. Even if I pay 50% income tax on my rental, I don't care. It gives me enough to pay all the bills. It gives me a little bit of euro when I'm there, and it just works for me. And it gives me something to do, something to look forward to, because when I'm in Montpellier, I might be looking forward to being in Torino de Sangre by nobody, because I might be tired of the city. Or, who knows, down the road, I might get tired of being in Torino de Sangre, and then I have, France. But I'm only going to be renting in France. At this stage, I'm not buying. That may change in 5, 10, 20 years. I don't know. But right now, that is what I'm doing. And hopefully I'm answering a lot of your questions. I wrote them down, but I can't read them. I wrote them on a napkin. So let's see if there was, oh yeah, utilities. That's a big one. So we're going to talk about that next. As you saw me running around like a chicken with my head cut off, because initially my realtor did set up the utilities, but not with all the correct, emails and addresses and all that and phone numbers. So that had to be dealt with. And then you have to go deal with the taxes after the taxes are after a certain period of time, and it just gets complicated. But let's talk about that, and then you'll know what I'm doing with the utilities. Well, I need a drink of water after all that. Utilities. Now that I have a second property, my realtor, Paola Savini at Mayella Casa in Abruzzo, Mayella Casa IT. She was my original realtor for the San Martino apartment. And it's San Martino sulla Medicina, not Faro San Martino. That's two different. There's many San Martinos. I asked if they did that, and yes, they do. So now with the new property, they're going to go ahead and set them all up for me with all of their information and the utilities will be going to their office and they will be paying the utilities for me. And then I will be giving them all of the utilities, tax, water, sewer, electric, and I don't know what else. Anyway, all those things they will get at their office of the San Martino property as well, because I will also have gas at the Torino de Sangro apartment. It's too much for me to follow up on. And yes, I know it comes by email, but imagine if you miss an email, or every time something comes in, I have to do a bank transfer. I hate doing that. In the States, everything that I have is on auto pay. And right now, because I sold all of my properties, I don't have property tax. I have apartment insurance. I have electric. I have gas. I have internet and water. And my son and I, believe it or not, we're going to be leaving. We're going to be moving again. We're moving out of this teensy tiny apartment that I rented for him last year. I thought he was going to take it over. He needs another year. I need some more time since my lung cancer surgery last year. So we're moving into a 2-bedroom, and all of the utilities are included in that. So that is why I rented that particular apartment, except for the insurance, renter's insurance, and which is $100 a year, and my internet, which is $70 a month. So basically, I will have to deal with less here in the States for the next year. And then by next year, I will be ready to begin my residency in France, because I can't do that until my son is sorted. And all summer, I'm going to be selling all this stuff. That's why I'm sitting in this chair in front of a window with a blanket over the window so you could see me, because there is not a surface in this apartment that doesn't have either a suitcase, a box, a basket, or a tubby on it, because I'm putting stuff for another suitcase to go to Italy. And I'm packing stuff, and then I'm also getting stuff in the car for flea markets. So it's crazy over here. So not only am I doing that in Italy, I'm doing that in my real life. This is what I've done. I've bought and sold properties for 30 years, and I'm the woman of transition. That's how I made my living. This is what I know, but this is the hardest thing for me, is getting rid of all the things that I've accumulated over my lifetime, and I really can't take them with me, because I'm not going to spend 30,000 euro to get my art and my lamps. And I'm looking at things. I have beautiful things that I inherited and bought and accumulated, but I am taking some of it. I will tell you how I'm getting it there. It's going to be a pretty fun way that I'm getting my belongings there. It's not usual, but I will tell you that as the time gets closer. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to be happening pretty much all the time, because we've got so many different directions. And that's the reason why I'm going to have Paula and her office do my utilities, because I want to spend more time doing things that I enjoy and not stressing out about making 8 or 9 different transfers, or where did the tax go, or is the tax right, or what happened to the water, or I don't want to deal with that. So sometimes we have to delegate, and this is the point in my life where I'm delegating that. And also, I think Nick Meta at Studio Legale Meta, they also have this service. So if you want to do part-time and you don't want to fuss and stress over all these things, that they will take care of them for you. So there's options. And if you love doing this yourself, hey, the more power to you. That's not my gig. I'd rather paint those clouds. I'd rather paint the beach. I'd rather walk the beach for that extra 5 hours a month that I have to, stress about the utilities. So anyway, hopefully you'll continue to watch and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and the notification button, and then you'll know we've been doing episodes Wednesdays and Saturdays, and I will continue to do that as long as I can. We're going to do some really fun things in New York as well. My son and I, we're going to go to the Corning Glass Museum, and who knows what else we'll see. There might be something going on downtown. It's a gorgeous area, Corning, New York, and we're going to share a little bit of that with you as time goes on. And then we'll be back in Italy before we know it. First, we'll go to England, take a class, and then we'll go back to Italy for a few months, and we'll be in the C apartment. So thanks for going with me and exploring all of my options and helping me make decisions and making suggestions. That was fantastic. And yeah, we've accomplished great things in the last 2 months, you and I. And yeah, let's go to the next thing. As long as we can walk up and down steps, we're golden. We're golden.
With Gina Fury.